Hello, everyone, and welcome to Swim with Jim. This is Jim Ludwig, the founder of MainStreet Financial Planning. And today we have with us Liz Gillette, a planner with MainStreet, who recently answered a question posed by one of our clients on how you get out of debt and how do you define financial freedom. Liz, tell us about your answer.
Hi, Jim. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me on this morning. Yes, just last week, I had a client who read my bio on our website, and she said she had a general idea of why I came into this field of financial planning, but she wanted more details. She said, "Will you tell me what is your definition of financial freedom?" And I have to say, I sat back and I love that question. I think it really talks a lot about what we do here at MainStreet and the impact that we hope to have on the lives of our clients. So to answer that question, Jim was already gracious enough to interview me, and we talked in detail about my debt journey. How I started, graduating college during the Great Recession and trying to get on my own 2 feet and getting myself and my family out of debt. So that is definitely why my transformation occurred. I found that when I was in debt, I lived in this place of fear and uncertainty and really scarcity. I constantly felt like there was this overwhelming feeling of how am I going to make this work? How am I going to climb out from this treadmill that we know as debt? Right? Especially the heavier impacting debt. If we're going to use the terms good and bad debt, which some people do, I had a good amount of bad debt and medical bills and all sorts of things that weren't exactly helping me advance my life. So as I worked my way through the debt, I went from this place of absolute uncertainty and really scarcity of what can I do? How can I fix this? How can I not kind of relive these mistakes or just make them bigger and bigger for my family, to gaining a bit of confidence and saying, okay, I did this. I paid off one debt and wow, now I understand this whole snowball thing. I understand the impact of making smart choices and how they can compound, right? We all know how bad choices can compound. Well, the smart choices can compound too. And so as I went through the journey and I started to get to this place of a little bit more confidence, a little bit more clarity on my life and the type of life that I wanted to live and how I wanted money to serve me, it really kept my enthusiasm going through the debt journey, because that's a big piece of it. It's coming up with a timeline in your debt payoff journey. What is a reasonable amount of time that you can go from where you are today to where you want to be? Because if I look at a client and I say, I've got good news for you, it's going to take 7 years, how are they supposed to keep that momentum going, right? So for me, it was kind of doing anything extra I could, cutting down costs, adding extra income. And I started to see this transformation, and I started to dream a little bit. Jim, at first it was a matter of, I'm grateful for that when bills come, I can pay them on time. And I'm grateful that I can be current on everything that I have. And then I started to pay off the debt and work my way through paying off my car early. And the car drives different when it's paid off, I'll tell you that much. So I just really started to get this feeling of, I can do this. I can get where I want to get in life. And money is no longer going to hold me back. And so for me, what I wrote to that client was just, financial freedom is going to mean something different to everybody. But for me, walking down the aisle debt-free was one of the most beautiful gifts that I could ever give myself. And it made that wedding day so special for myself and my husband. And I wasn't going home to open up a big credit card bill because I put our honeymoon on the credit card, right? And deciding to have a child a few years ago and feeling like I want my financial ducks in a row so that I can give my child the best life possible in terms of this sense of security. So it's really opened up a world to me, because it's almost like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You start with the basics and you say, okay, food and shelter and clothing. And then you start to look, and it's no coincidence I made a career change, right? Because I didn't feel a slave to my income coming in and my paycheck. And so I started to dream bigger and say, what do I want to do? I want to empower people. How I feel right now as I've made my journey, I want to help other people in these transformations. So I made a career change during that time. I felt comfortable enough to buy a house, and I knew it would have been a gift, not a burden, right, to purchase that house. And so as it's gone on, it's just been a really beautiful thing to see how you can use money as a tool to live this very intentional life. You know, if you want to be someone who gives back to the causes that you believe in, rather than seeing money, it's either good or it's evil, or you have it or you don't. It's almost reframing it to a place of abundance instead of scarcity. So now I look at it and I say, I'm very fortunate. My basic needs are covered. How can I live this life that I'm proud of? How can I build a legacy with money just being one resource that gets me to this place? So I definitely was not that long-winded in the email that I wrote to the client, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of information of, you know, how I view this definition of financial freedom and just helping you live your best life. And there's no better time to talk about it than in January of the new year.
Liz, can you share with us, you have such a wonderful story. Can you share with us the closet door trick you came up with?
We really should start rehearsing these so I can start opting out of the questions that you're asking me. Okay, so what I did in my debt payoff journey, I knew I wanted some kind of visual. So in addition to a vision board that I created that just kept me moving and going and feeling like I was capable of achieving what I wanted to achieve, because it was a lofty goal ahead of me. I lived in this small apartment in DC, this 1-bedroom apartment, and I thought about, okay, if I create some kind of visual representation, where should I put it so that I see it every day, you know, so that I know that this debt journey, this is my baby right now. This is what I'm focused in on, and I don't want to lose steam. So I created one of those old school thermometers. I mean, you see it most often for fundraising efforts, right? So I created this probably about 3 feet tall thermometer, and I had all these little dial marks, and I kept a marker right in my closet, and it had these little milestones of, okay, I paid off my first $300, $500, $1,000, and then it started to move to the bigger milestones, and $5,000 and $10,000, and ultimately with over $70,000 worth of debt paid off, when I open my closet first thing in the morning, right? You wake up, you rub your eyes, you maybe go to the bathroom, and then you go into that closet. So it was a wonderful representation of where I was going and why it mattered to me. You know, because Jim, it's all about the why, right? What's the point of a goal unless it's the goal you created and the goal that means something to you? So yeah, I had a closet thermometer, I would say.
And share with us how athletics helped you with achieving your goals.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I'll tell you, when I graduated and as a Division I athlete, you know, my resume had a lot less on it than all of my classmates at GW who had internships on the Hill, right? And I remember talking to my athletic advisor and my academic advisor. We met a few times a year. From freshman year on, they had us create a resume just so we could see what's on it. How are you going to stand out, you know, in the working world? And I was so frustrated by the fact that there's one line that says, you know, GW volleyball player, but how do you even begin to explain what that was and the time commitment and the 20 to 30 hours a week, you know, on top of being a full-time student that represented. So I was very fortunate. I realized right away in my interviewing process that I was going to have to be able to find a way to articulate what I've learned through athletics and how that would translate to the workplace. So I would say some of the biggest things that have helped me: one, the ability to deal with setback. I mean, you're facing it all the time, right? Anyone who's going to a college sport, they were the rock star on their team, right? And then you all get together and you're at the bottom of the totem pole. And now you need to stand out amongst the best of the best. Now you need to work your way up. So there definitely was one, that feeling of like, I get it. Some months aren't going to be as good as others. And here's a bill I wasn't expecting. And oh no, my car broke down. But there's a real resiliency that, you know, athletics teaches you. Tenacity, you know, whether you like it or don't like it, it's probably one of my most defining characteristics in terms of setting a goal and sticking my mind. You know, once my mind is made up, it's pretty much a done deal, and I'm willing to do what it takes. So that was a big factor. And I would also just say patience, because it's a long road, and Rome wasn't built in a day. And that's exactly how volleyball was. It wasn't just one good practice. You kind of had to have that stamina and that patience for the long run, whether it's during a game or during a practice. So I would say, yeah, my athletic background definitely helped me keep my eyes on the prize for this one.
Well, Liz, thank you very much for sharing your stories with us on Swim with Jim. I hope you motivate and encourage other people, whether they're clients or prospects or just our friends and neighbors, that they too can get out of debt and they can seek and attain financial freedom as they define it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jim. It's truly a pleasure.